So this lesson is on the staff, clefs, and ledger lines. The staff is where we write music, and the staff is composed of 5 lines and 4 spaces. This has been around since about the 1400s, so it's a pretty good system. And if you look at the lines and spaces, you'll see a little piano keyboard changing as the note is moving up each line and space. And when we see notes, we'll know exactly what they are once we add what's called a clef. And for music, for the most part, we'll be using one of 2 clefs. One is called the treble clef and the other is called the bass clef. Viola players will play an instrument that reads something called alto clef or C clef. While we're not introducing it at this time, that will be coming a little bit later. So the treble clef, this is the music part that plays all of the higher pitches. So think about violins, and if you're playing a piano, this would be the right side of the piano or the highest part of the piano. So the treble clef is also called the G clef because where the note circles around right here is going to be the note G. It also looks like the letter G. As a matter of fact, the clef sign has changed many times over the last couple hundred years. And when they first started writing it, they basically wrote a little letter G right there to tell us that's the note G. So with the second line being our target, and think about that as being a little target spot, we can then figure out what all the rest of the notes of that clef are supposed to be. So if we think about the musical alphabet goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G. After G, it then repeats back to A. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And that's how our alphabet goes. Once you hit the note G, if we go up, we're going to start the alphabet again. So the next note higher is going to be the note A. And many of my students get confused and they think that the next note above a G is an H because that's our regular alphabet. But remember, we're in a musical alphabet here, so there is no H note. So after A, the next line up is going to be the note B, then the next space, C, then line D, E, F, and G. So every single time that I go from a line, I'll then go to the next space, and that's the next note higher. And if you notice, they're all going in a straight line, and they're following a pattern. Space, line, space, line, space, line, space. Now you'll notice at the very, very top, we don't have any more notes. But in music, we do have higher pitches than just what we have in the clef. So to make more pitches go higher, even though I don't have a full staff anymore, what we do is we add something called a ledger line. And a ledger line is just a little line that we'll create above the staff in this case, or below the staff, so we can extend notes either above, so make them go higher, or below the staff to make them go lower. So in this case, we added a ledger line, and now we have the note A that we'll place there. Now, if you notice this little pattern, we have, I'll start on the note D here. We have a space. I'm sorry, this is a line, and then E is going to be on a space. F is a line. G is a space, and then A is now on a line. So we're still following that pattern of line, space, line. And if I'd have a note above that, this note would actually sit on top of that ledger line, and that next note that would be above there would be the note B if we had it there. So the next clef that we're going to discuss is called the bass clef. The instruments that play the bass clef are going to be the cellos and the basses. And the bass on the piano, if you're ever reading a piano or playing a piano, it's going to be the left-hand notes. These are all of the lower pitches. And the bass clef is also known as the F clef because originally this little section here, rather than have this nice curly little symbol, actually looked more just kind of like a little fancy letter F. And what it's become, though, is this kind of ear-looking shape and these 2 dots. On that 4th line where those 2 dots surround is going to be the note F. And if you kind of think about this as like being part of an F, that's a little kind of a cutesy fancy F right there. This is going to be the note F. So we think about that as another target. Just like we had a target for treble clef, this is our target for bass clef. So if we think about the musical alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, one note above an F is going to be the note G. Think about that alphabet again. Remember that after G, the alphabet goes back to A, right? So if I have the note F, I go up one space to a G. I then go up the next line to an A. Let's see if that works. And it does. F, G, A. So if I go back to this target spot over here, this F, and I go down the staff, I have the note F, and now my alphabet's going to be going backwards. F, E, D, C, B, A, and then G. So if you look at this here, this actually is an 11-line staff. Now, you can easily tell exactly what note's supposed to be where, right? No, that's impossible. There are way too many lines, and we can't really tell exactly what pitch is what, and that just gets too confusing. So to make this more simple, what we've done is we're going to have an imaginary line between all of these other lines here. We're going to take one of them away. Now I have a 5-line staff above and a 5-line staff below. And we're just going to keep thinking about this imaginary line that's between these two staffs right here. And in music, the top part is going to be the treble clef, and the bottom part's going to be the bass clef. Just like in a piano, the treble part's in the right hand. This is the higher notes. And the bass part, or the bass clef, is going to be in the left hand, or the lower notes. So the higher notes above, the lower notes below. When I combine both of the staffs together like this, I get something called the grand staff. And this is what piano players read. On the top, we have our treble clef, and on the bottom, we have our bass clef. Now, the interesting part is this. When I combine both of the staffs, that imaginary line that we had right in the middle that we took away is actually a ledger line that is now the note called middle C. And it works out beautifully. Think about that second line and on the treble clef. So the second line is the note G. It goes down to an F, an E, a D right below that line, and then we have to add an extra little ledger line there for the note C. So let's look at the bass clef. The bass clef, our target note was F on that 4th line. So we have F, G, A, B, which would be right above the staff, and then C is that next note. It works perfectly between the two staffs here that they split the note middle C. So this is everything you need to know about how the staff and clefs and ledger lines work. This is basically the foundation of written music, and you're now on your way to being music readers. Good job.